advertisements.
YouTube setup is pretty good. Alright, checking YouTube. YouTube look good. So we are live. Welcome everyone to the Foolish Tech Show. It is Thursday, is it?
Yeah. It is Thursday.
Almost done with another week here, and just one more day to go before the holiday weekend if you're in the U.S., so prepare for some barbecues and things of that nature, I imagine. But for now, we're here to provide support for our products and services. If you have any questions about those, you can jump over to our IRC chat at foolishtechshow.com or foolishit.com/live, and we'll be more than happy to interrupt whatever we're chit-chatting about or talking shop about, or you can help direct our conversation as it happened yesterday to get us talking about fish oil or something like that, maybe. But if you do have a question about our products or service, we'll be happy to interrupt whatever we're doing and focus on that instead. So feel free to jump over there. And otherwise, we're probably just going to talk some random shop. Did anyone have anything particular interesting they had going on today? Or?
Well, I have a couple things, if you don't mind, unless somebody else would like to go first. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know, and you've covered this recently, and I don't know if this is a new one or not, but so they're talking about alarming rates of e-cig explosions. And I've been doing e-cigs now for quite a long period of time, and you have too, I believe, Brantley, and Nick's a big fan, and Tank. And so we're all been doing it now, I believe, for many years. And I don't think any of us has offered or suffered any sort of explosion. Now, I'm not denying that these things occurred, and I'm also not denying that there are e-cigs out there that are subpar and cheap, but that's the case with everything. And you can probably buy a cheap grill that blows up on you as well. And I know there might be a little bit more regulation with some of the manufacturing processes and safety stuff like that for some of those things, but I don't believe the alarming rates when they say things like that, statements like that. It bothers me because it doesn't seem to be based on facts. If they wanted to say they could say these rates at the rates listed here, but they typically don't provide that information, and they then pass a judgment on what the rate is, their interpretation of the rate. So they could say the rate is fast or the rate is slow, or the rate is very high of it or low or whatever, not fast and slow, but low and high. But anyway, I think you guys get the point. And I'm going to post this article, but I don't necessarily agree with the way it's reporting on the issue. So take a look, and is there another link? I think no, it's the same link. Okay. Take a look at that. I just in full disclosure, we're probably a little bit biased, but again, having done it for as long as we have with as many different devices as we have, and the fact that I haven't had a case of it leads me to believe that it's relatively okay. But then again, we also go with usually well-reviewed devices, and we do our market research before we purchase. And we've recommended to some people out there who have been smokers or had friends or family that were smokers to suggest that they try these things. You want to look into any product before you purchase it, and we certainly don't recommend the bottom of the barrel, low end or purely imported devices, although all of them are made overseas. But a little bit of market research and reviewing, and asking us or for our experience or someone else who's had experience with a particular device, I think is more valuable in these cases. but I don't know if you had a thought on it, Brantley, or if what I'm saying is ringing true to you, or if you think that people should be more concerned about it, or whatever. I don't know. What's your thought?
No.
So you're in agreement with me that they're blowing it out of proportion?
Yeah.
Okay. And
but if one of them explodes, that may be too much. So.
Well, that's understandable. I'm not belittling.
I mean, it's like I'm not out here recommending you go get those fake hoverboards now, because those will explode and catch on fire randomly.
Yeah, but there are several things that have been known to do that, including cars and doing other failures, massive failures that cause deaths. These things happen, and it's unfortunate when they do happen. But particularly with
there's a recall out on my car where the airbag could spontaneously deploy and shoot metal shards into your face, resulting in bodily harm or death.
Yeah, that's by the largest recall in existence in history, I think, ever. The guys that made the airbags for all those vehicle models. I don't know, it's something like was it hundreds of millions of cars affected or something like that? I don't know exactly, but it's so much that most people will likely receive notification of that. And I'm glad you mentioned that, Proctor, because I hadn't heard of anybody that had gotten those notices yet, and I was expecting one for my vehicle because I think it's in the time period, but maybe I got lucky.
Yeah, I'm gotten mail on it by the ton, it seems like.
Well, Eric has a question about D7.2 coming up. He said give him a few minutes to type it in. It's regarding that activation assistant they found useful the other day. So looking forward to seeing what that's about. And hopefully I can answer it. I haven't used that activation assistant much at all. So
I haven't either.
I haven't used it recently, but I've been tempted to take a look at it again after all the good talk and what it did for Eric. But luckily, I haven't had to deal with activation issues in a little while myself. If he takes a little bit longer than a moment, I think you could talk about the Comcast thing.
Well, first I was going to talk about this, where apparently the experts are saying now that virtual assistants, like the Amazon Echo, break U.S. child privacy laws. That seems kind of interesting.
Well,
Especially
then why don't all game systems have this problem? Because I believe you can turn an Xbox into and I'm sure people
may
games with their kids on those devices. Or PlayStations or portable devices. I'm sure they already have microphones built into all of those from Nintendo, let's say, for instance. So could this set a precedent?
Possibly, maybe. Who knows?
I was able to activate almost all of the machines, and this is Eric, of course, features Eric. I was able to activate almost all of the machines with the new activation key but 2. Okay, so he's still having trouble on 2 machines. Is there anything unique about these 2 machines that they share in common? Any ideas, Bradley?
Format and reload.
and may come to that, but there's probably a couple other things that we can try. But didn't we already discuss it the other day, and we decided D7.2 is the best approach to it?
Well, they said he gave some more info here. He's saying that they can't find a script host.
Oh, they don't have the file. Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. So you just need to get that file from another system.
Oh, wondering what that is. So yeah, that's the Windows Software Licensing Management Tool. Visual Basic Script used to configure licensing on any Windows 2008 server.
Yeah, I have it on my system. It's 143 roughly kilobyte Visual Basic Script, of course.
That sounds like something you may want to run the SFC first for, so the system file checker. I would feel like that would be something that would be included in that and verify.
Wow, that's a nice and long script. I wonder how many.
Yeah, so when he tried it with something else, he's getting a SFC scan maybe needed. I again, activation issues are kind of always a hit and miss thing with the way that Microsoft does it. So,
well, I'm not so sure this has anything to do with an activation issue anymore. I'm thinking that there are other problems on these two machines, but some of them may be corrected. I would try to address as many of the issues as possible before you completely give up, and certainly running SFC and replacing that file may assist you. Now, this, as I recall, what versions of Windows are we talking about here? I forget. Eric, because again, earlier versions of Windows would not, prior to Server 2008, would not include that, and Windows 7 Pro. Are they all that way? I mean, so it works on some Win 7s, but not other Win 7s. If that's the case, then yeah, it's damage to those machines.
He's saying he's doing it all in Windows Activation Assistant D7.2, and we got that, but D7.2 uses the components of Windows to try to fix things. So if those are broken, then D7.2 is going to have a much harder time doing it. I would definitely start with the SFC. That might get you a quick fix there. But if it's still acting up after that, I would probably think looking towards the reloading is going to be your best bet there. I mean, you can try all the options in the repair section and try to just repair the heck out of Windows. That is one thing nice about Windows. If you try to fix everything except for registering everything in System32 folder, it doesn't really hurt it. If it fixes it, if it's broken. If not, then it will.
It's proven to be safe for me.
With more than one file missing, you may also want to run a hard drive diagnostic on the system.
Good point too. Yeah.
That may be.
I feel like if there's other issues with the system, go ahead and format and reload, because Windows being broken, a lot of times that's going to be your easier method to move forward, especially if you've been messing with them for a little while. But an SFC isn't that long to run, so running that might be worth it. But again, to Proctor's point, it is good that if it is missing a lot of files and SFC is replacing a lot of stuff, there may be hard drive issues or data issues, and reloading it's not even going to help those. So probably do a hard drive file system check, and then SFC, and then reload. Cool. Well, I had mentioned too when we brought up the Windows activation stuff. It can be a hit and miss because of how Microsoft is about it, actually. So if it works, that's awesome. If it doesn't, we blame Microsoft. I mean, that's how it has to go, though. Like, if it does work, then it's obviously working, and if it doesn't work, then it's obviously Microsoft's messing something up. So one of the two, they put a new hard drive in recently. Still could be file system issues. I've seen file systems get corrupted on new hard drives too, especially if they've been done a cloning setup from possibly a bad drive. So wouldn't be a bad idea to check into the file system. I mean, at least doing the Windows check file system is probably your best option there. That extensive one does take a long time, though.
I still had, by the way, another user who was still using D7 version 2 If you ever come across somebody with D7 to version 2 on their computers, please let us know who that is, what it says in the title bar of the application, so we can help those individuals get upgraded.
Yes, you should be on version 3 of D7 too. So all you coffee drinkers out there, there's a new Kickstarter on the way.
Kickstarter.
This alarm clock will brew coffee right beside your bed table. So
I wonder if the increases
in your cup or something.
Lawsuits of burnt faces with people trying to turn off the alarm clock and then stick their hand in a pot of boiling coffee. That could be interesting.
Yeah, at the very least, I'm sure I would knock that thing off the nightstand and break it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the design could be a lot better, but I wouldn't mind waking up to a bedside coffee cup right
Oh, that would be excellent.
The idea sounds solid, but I think they need to consider some of the implications of that, and that's why you should always be careful with the Kickstarter programs, because they don't always all pan out, you know.
That design's a little bad for anybody that moves about any at all in their sleep.
The Keurig machines will only heat up; they won't.
Won't brew a cup.
Yeah. Because a lot of coffee makers do have alarm settings already built into them, I thought.
Yeah. Did you mention the Google Maps thingy?
No, go ahead and talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Michael's super upset.
I'm not super upset, but
adding ads into its maps.
Well, yeah, Google Maps, including it would appear driving, or at least while you're getting directions, appear to putting ads there. I have some concern with the advertisements while driving and navigating and GPS functionality, and what I read wasn't completely clear on whether or not it would.
If that lady starts popping up and telling me that I can get a discount on a store while I'm driving by, I'm going to throw my phone out the window.
Yeah. I mean, that's effectively what.
I already get pissed off at her telling me how to drive.
A lot of people are concerned now. It's been referred to as the ad apocalypse. I'll post in a couple of.
But at the same time, it wasn't for Waze, and Waze is owned by Google, uses all the same data. Actually, Google Maps pulls from Waze data.
Shout out to Glenn for the Australian news link, by the way.
Maybe switching to Waze isn't a bad idea for that. Although keep in mind that Waze does have that hack out there where they can set up thousands of ghost users and track your location all the time. So just keep that in mind. But Waze is pretty good, and it is owned by Google, and it is exactly like Google Maps. Actually, a lot of the times better because of the crowdsourcing stuff, which Google Maps doesn't pull over.
That's some additional AdWords, I guess, from Google, information about that, if you guys want to look.
Yeah. So if you're concerned about hitting your data cap because of watching all of our shows and doing all kinds of stuff, and you're on Comcast, look out, because they're going to start charging you $50 per month extra to avoid data caps.
There you go.
That is ridiculous.
Michael
has to pay $5, and I think that's fine, especially when someone else has already offered to pay the $5 for him.
Okay, let's not get into those details. However, I believe it's a principal matter. Yeah, 50 is outrageous, and I believe somebody will eventually take them to task on how they're doing their customers, but maybe not. Maybe they'll just be allowed to make it $1,000 per month. Yeah, who knows?
I'm sure. I didn't even know they had data caps on commercial. That's a good point there, Nels. Let's read the article a little bit more. Yeah, I don't see anything about that, but apparently it's part of the issue with the FCC, which I was saying I will never have data caps because I'm using Charter here, or forced to use Charter here. So I won't have data caps for the next 7 years because of their merger with Time Warner Cable. I'm hoping their merger with Time Warner Cable will also get me a higher than 60/4 megs per second.
I hope, but that I think probably requires some sort of infrastructure upgrade. So that may take some time, but hopefully that will.
I'm hoping their issue was technology. They didn't have access to it or something, because this is crap.
It is. I feel really bad, and particularly somebody like you who benefits dramatically from the increased bandwidth and having to suffer for as long as you have. And when I'm in a relatively, and you're in a relatively,
yeah, and I would actually use my data where Michael doesn't use his data.
Well, I do use a bit of it, but
you don't even come close to the cap. We feel like it's worth paying $5 to go over it.
I live is rural, relatively. And
I go over the cap, your cap, like every 2 weeks.
Well, yeah. See, I don't understand that. I mean, I know I have the ability to do that, and if I put my mind to doing it, I could do it. But my general activities for work and most everything else don't have that big of a deal. But I'm not streaming the show, for instance. So the bandwidth needs, for instance, on Proctor right now are a little bit higher. There's a lot of factors, and
Google Fiber hasn't made it anywhere yet, Quark. You know that. Don't joke about us not having it here.
There's a lot of cities that are having that.
Y'all are actually closer to that. Michael, you especially, being so close to Raleigh, North Carolina.
I may be able to visit someone who has Google Fiber at some point. Yeah. Did you?
It's right down the street from you. So.
Did you drop the drone news?
No.
Very reasonably priced drones coming out of that
triangle is, but none of us are in the triangle, Quark.
Now, these are Chinese manufactured drones, and if you're paranoid or something like that, I don't know. But
the Xiaomis, budget, they look a lot like Phantoms, and they have pretty good cameras for the price. So
I know that's what I wanted to hear your feedback on that. Now, this company is pretty well known for doing like really good ripoff things, I believe, and in a lot of other areas too. I think even cell phones and some other stuff. I don't know. They have good potential, and of course with the low cost of labor, the mass production, and the workforce in China, I bet we would see continuing improvements in features and low prices to go along with that. Do you have any issues with it being manufactured in China versus maybe somewhere else?
No, everything is manufactured in China.
Yeah, I guess so. The company though has their I believe it was their phone. I hope I'm not confusing two different places, but yeah, they do the smartphone. Yeah, so they have a lot of potential, but it seems like their market is tanked. Their sales barely grew, and
DJI is
going to be the iPhone killer. So actually, you might want to take that in consideration. There's a
DJI is manufactured in China, and everything is manufactured in China.
Yeah, but just FYI, but we'll see. They think the drone possibly could offset, that issue that they were having there. But I thought it was I thought it was interesting, and there's been a lot of breakthroughs with random number generation recently.
Hold on, they're talking about stuff in the chat. So.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I was assuming that the data cap would be only for residential customers. Business customers, they almost include that $50 price hike for data caps anyway, so they would have a tough time pulling that over on businesses. And especially if you depend on your business, you are going to be pissed off if you end up having to pay extra later down the month. So, but yeah, I think the data cap thing is a horrible, terrible thing. It's ridiculous. I hate cell phones for making it popular, and now all the cable companies are going to do the same thing.
But do people really truly understand, though, it's completely fictitious? In other words, that there's not, when people download more data, their networks aren't stressing anymore. It's not like there's some person holding up and actually pulling the bits along. I mean,
Michael, actually,
it costs electricity, but
it's not completely made up. They oversell their bandwidth. Cell phone providers do the same thing. They don't have the infrastructure to support giving everybody the theoretical speeds.
I believe that they do. I believe
at the same time. They don't, though.
I believe that they
don't.
I believe that they do.
There's no way. You can see this in real life if you're at an apartment place or you're in a heavily populated, congested college town area where there's lots of people getting online. Then you can see that you're not going to get internet.
I used to see that a long time ago. But since they built out the infrastructure, everybody here is on that because it's the only one that can provide the speeds that they need. So our market is completely 100% saturated with every resident on the service.
Michael, you're out in the middle of nowhere, so you're not going to see what I'm talking about. If you're in the middle of downtown Greenville, North Carolina, at prime time, you are going to see a difference in your internet speed. There's a huge difference between 300 people sharing a node and 20 people on a block sharing a node.
I haven't seen infrastructure problems with the cable.
You're not going to see it
dealt with, but I wasn't. I was on Comcast when I was up in Richmond, okay, and I was living in a Richmond is very densely populated, and downtown Richmond is very densely populated, and there's not a problem with bandwidth. In fact, Richmond has a wireless metropolitan network that they had for a very long period of time, which was very fast, a good competition for a long period of time there. I forget what was it called, WiMAX. I know, I can't remember what it's called, but at any rate, I lived in several areas in Southside, which was a little bit less populated, as well as in the actual city.
Michael.
And this was a long time ago when even then it was better.
Stop. Michael, stop. The way that I know for a fact, and you're never going to be able to say it's not true, is because of Bonnaroo. If you go to Bonnaroo for a week, there's 150,000 people sharing a network node, and they cannot use data at all.
Yeah, okay, I understand that, but there's never going to be a case of 150,000 people on a node in any other circumstance other than a concert like that.
There is in a metropolitan area, and the point is, if everyone is trying to use the internet at the exact same time, you are going to see speed issues.
They've accommodated that. They've already upgraded their infrastructures. It doesn't matter to them because they need to grow, and they're going to have to provide more bandwidth and more data year over year over year anyway. So they're already upgrading their equipment. They've already paid for their costs, and they're putting the blame on the customers, which they want to buy the services for. Which they want to buy the services for.
I agree that they're putting the blame incorrectly on the customers because they're overselling their bandwidth. But they do not
They don't oversell their bandwidth. I believe that's just a horseshit bag of lies. I mean,
that's how they operate, Michael. They don't put bandwidth out there, then not sell it. They put just enough bandwidth out there so that they can oversell it. When it gets saturated to the point where they have to upgrade it, then they upgrade it. They're not just going to put out thousands of bandwidth and just leave it sitting there.
They proactively upgrade it. They proactively upgrade it to allow services. For instance, case in point, Suddenlink. They just upgraded to gigabit here proactively. There was no need or demand. You're right. It's so low. They proactively upgraded to 1 gigabits. They proactively upgraded me to 100 megabits when they did it. They proactively been upgrading me year after year after year after year. So did Comcast when I was on them. If what you're saying is true, they would never proactively upgrade. It'd be like 5 or 10 years before you'd ever see an upgrade, and that's not the case. They have to do it to offer new services to their customers, to be able to give new video on demand services to their customers. So they do it because of their business model. It has nothing to do with us overtaxing them. They're the ones selling the services to begin with.
That's the reason, is because they notice people are overusing DVR and streaming and things.
Overusing? It's not overusing. They're doing what they want them to do. They're selling these services to them so that it can consume more data, and then they're charging them for doing that. They're charging them both ways going. They're so wrong.
Not. Michael, you have no idea what you're talking about. And yes, he did just give away another piece of his life history and location set there. So I thought he just wouldn't notice the fact that I told him he lived in Greenville, North Carolina. But he went off and took it on to the fact that he's also lived in the Richmond, Virginia. So now you know, if you're tracking a person's history and you find out they live in Richmond, Virginia and Greenville, North Carolina, it's probably Michael.
Why don't we give out like a free copy of Crypto Prevent to the
Brantley, you make it a problem by emphasizing it and focusing on it. It's like reposting the same post on a million different websites. It doesn't make that post any more valuable, but effectively it does in this day and age because it goes to the top of the list in a search engine. But
it doesn't do anything. Well, it actually does, but
no, but I mean, it does something for the wrong reason. A basic falsehood just engineered to put, just like, oh, jeez, forget it. It's believe what you want to believe.
Is there steam coming out of your ears yet, Michael?
It sounds like there is. I think he's not only standing at this point.
Am I gonna have to get back on that medication? Jesus.
He's quite possibly levitating.
He's done turned a bright red color. Steam coming out of his ears.
Moving on, how about our robot post of the day, which you love to see robots in being harmed.
Oh my gosh.
This is not just them being harmed. This is them fucking allowing them to feel pain.
Michael, watch your language.
Sorry.
Quark posted a robot thing too. Adidas, the
the factory. Yeah, I heard about that too.
Replacing all their people with robots too. So
yeah, this is a mass exodus basically. Give it a couple of years and there won't be any jobs left for anyone. Recently,
McDonald's CEO or someone high in the McDonald's range was
interviewed. He said the 15% or $15 minimum wage would be cheaper to get robots to replace all the workers than pay people that. And right? Isn't that what you're talking about?
Yeah. So yeah. Michael watches Fox News.
It's posted on more than just Fox News, but that is one outlet I believe that also carried that story.
Thanks for that GPS coordinates, RTM Tech. That's actually really close to my mom's house. The actual pin drop there.
Yeah, I can't force everyone to open their eyes, but
I do see what he means, but he's wrong. He hasn't worked in the industry. He doesn't know anything about the industry that he's talking about.
You just don't like to feel. You don't like to feel upset because you're being lied to. You've been lied to by the people you worked for. You were lied to by the people you work for.
I have seen and experienced it. You're the one that's correct.
No,
you have absolutely no data or proof of any of it. You have nothing. You're just saying that it's wrong. You have absolutely nothing to base it on. I've given you examples of where this is true.
And I've given counter examples to each one of those points. I've given you
they just do it because
I've given you counter examples, not because they're making more money. They're deliberately taking advantage of their consumers, and they have no regulation at all to stop them. And there's no competition. They all have monopolies. So why not do whatever they want to? I wanted to say something bad there, but whatever they want to, and that is exactly what they're doing. They're raising the rates. They're finding new ways to charge the same customers for the same things. They're pushing more and more services down their throat, and basically providing,
Michael, the monopoly thing not really that big a deal either, because you see, cell phone companies aren't that much better either.
Well, all telecommunications companies have monopolies in every area that they're. There's a.
It's the entire industries. It's not that.
And just because it's always been this way and that's the way it is, that means it's right. I
didn't say anything like that. I never said it's right. I'm just telling you you're wrong. You specifically, the way you think is wrong.
Oh, well.
And you have absolutely no way to base anything that you're saying
on personal experience. Yes, where I've lived, what I've seen, the places, and this has been in a number of locations in a number of houses. It's not like I just go to one person's neighborhood. When I was living for 7 years in a particular location in a relatively larger city in this country, a very populous city in this country. And I experienced that.
How long ago was that? Because
this was in the 90s and in the 2000s.
And way before they had internet and broadband and lots of people using the internet.
And up till today, because I go visit Richmond, all my friends there till today. I've seen it progress. Back then, yeah, there were some issues at the very beginning when they were first deploying things out. But after they've done with their infrastructure and after they had things put in place, they basically just went on their regular upgrade schedule. They would upgrade their equipment when they needed to for their purposes and not because of the consumers. Because you can't, once an area is saturated in population, it doesn't grow in population. Once you have the infrastructure, they're not going to need to do anything.
Not everybody has internet at the same time. Not everybody uses it at the same time.
But that's what they plan for. They
don't plan for that.
They're definitely going to be.
They want everybody to be a customer. They want everybody to be a customer
because of heavy network traffic.
Look, the worst thing, people would leave and switch from them if they didn't deliver the content.
It might not be so slow that you can't that you notice possibly if you're just surfing the web or something. But if you run speed tests on it, it's going to be diminished during peak hours.
And they can't switch, Michael. There's nowhere for them to switch. That's why they do this.
Saying that they're not constrained as you seem to be suggesting that they are.
And they upgrade their systems for at least two reasons,
And
as they have more users, they do it because of a customer, to increase customers. They'll need to beef up their infrastructure, and as customers demand faster speeds, they're going to want to beef up.
Yeah, but they proactively do it to sell them the services. They proactively do it to sell them.
They're not proactively doing it to sell them the services alone.
Yes.
And they're not doing it to over increase their network. Like I said, Michael, they're not just buying 1,000 cows so that 3 people can eat burgers. They're going to buy 1 cow so 3 people can eat burgers. When that 1 cow runs out of burgers, then they'll go out and buy maybe 2 cows, depending on how much they made off of those 3 people. That's how it works. And
they know how much each year bandwidth will go up. They know each year how much more bandwidth will go up.
You've never worked for an ISP. You've never done anything in the telecom industry. You have no basis for your opinion.
Just being a customer and being and
that's no basis for an opinion.
Okay.
Nothing to say what
the lies that they may have been telling you and
what lies they have. You have no basis for any of it. You have no basis, Michael.
I'm just saying why do you believe them versus me or anybody else?
You need a basis of some sort, and you have none. Your argument is completely invalid.
Okay. Well, I believe what you want to believe, man. You're free to be wrong your entire life and die a wrong person.
That's fine because you do it every day. So, new evidence suggests that a 5th fundamental force of nature may be out there. Did y'all even know that there were 4 fundamental forces of nature?
Earth, fire, water.
No, those are elements, Tank. Those aren't.
Okay, fine. I'm the 5th fundamental force.
No, you're talking about gravity, the strong and weak nuclear forces, and electromagnetism?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Oh, okay. Yeah, then I am well aware of those things. But the
there's a 5th one?
No, I mean,
new data suggests.
Why? What? Let me see. I have to read the article, I guess. What evidence suggests? Oh, yep, there it is. Oh, I listed them in the wrong order. Does it matter? Are they doing strong to? Because there's relative how powerful the forces are. Like some of the forces are very strong, but on very, very small scale. So overall, they're not that influential. But others are very powerful over much, or not as powerful over much larger scales. So it depends on how you away. A new one experiment performed in Hungary suggests that might be the case for this new one. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. If it's used to explain dark matter, I can sort of understand that part of it, and it seems to be the case here. That's interesting. I'll have to go into this in more detail.
So let's look at this article that has the 20th scariest movies or horror movies of the last decade. I am kind of upset there because they don't have actually my number one favorite, Annabelle, on there. They do have the first one, The Conjuring, on there, but not Annabelle. And that has to be by far one of the scariest movies that I've seen in the past decade.
I will continue to have dreams about it now.
That's the one about the doll, right?
Yeah.
They're leaving. These are all like relatively new movies, aren't they?
Well, some of them aren't. Some of them are old, but I've never seen The Host. I've heard of Black Swan, but I didn't think it was really a horror movie.
I liked Black Swan.
I've never seen Absentinas or Martyrs. Sinister, the entire Sinister.
Drag Me to Hell wasn't. I thought Drag Me to Hell was almost comical. It wasn't. Yeah, I mean, not to say that it wasn't a good movie. I really liked it. It was a great movie. But yeah. And what's the deal with the wreck thing? That was horrible. I couldn't watch my way through that, and they've made 3 of them. So I don't know.
Did you watch Sinister, Michael?
Yeah, but I didn't.
And we're going down the list here.
I didn't like it that much.
Pay attention to the list.
Okay. Well, anyway, these I think they should put some older ones. Like I think like Alien. The original Alien was a great horror movie.
Is that in the past decade though?
No, these are in just the past decade. Okay.
Yeah, that was the title of it.
Oh, okay.
The Orphanage I've heard of, but I've never seen.
Creepy girl. Oh yes. She. Oh.
Phyllis was okay.
The Orphanage was disturbing. I don't think it was a great horror movie, but it kind of creeped me out a bit. It's up there. It's up there. Let the Right One In. I loved Let the Right One In. The original version, not the remake, though. Please watch the original Norwegian version of that movie, Let the Right One In. Oh, my God, spectacular. Spectacular, particularly if you're a vampire fan or like stories surrounding that. This is a bit of a different take on it, but it's a wonderful, wonderful film.
Your Next was a fairly interesting movie.
Okay, Eric doesn't apparently like movies. Right. Eric doesn't like movies or doesn't like my opinion of movies or your maybe.
The Conjuring was awesome.
Oh, he's not a big horror fan. I am a very big
Insidious was awesome.
I like horror movies, particularly in October, but we're nowhere near October.
I did not think The Babadook was very good at all. I can't believe they put Paranormal Activity up there. That's not a horror movie at all. That's a freaking comedy. It Follows is a crazy movie, though. Have you seen It Follows?
Yeah. Let me refresh my memory on that one. Let me.
It's a sexually transmitted disease.
Oh yes! Did I tell you about that? Oh my God, that's crazy!
Freaking crazy movie.
Wait! No!
And watched it.
This is not the one I'm talking about. I did not see this one yet. It is.
That one, it is a crazy movie. It is definitely creepy.
I saw another one about an STD that I thought was wild. I saw one. It was literally. Oh my God! It was called Teeth. It was. Oh, that was a crazy movie. That was a little bit different. Not an STD, but then there was another one about an STD too.
Glenn, Wind Vista is a horror story.
That's for sure.
Windows Millennium wasn't in the last decade, so I guess that one doesn't count. Well, Windows Vista wasn't.
I like this conversation better. Yes, Vista is Vista. Let's see, Millennium was 99, 98, 99, I think. So that wouldn't have been in the past decade. Doesn't count. Futures Tech Cork says we need to hear about teeth. Okay, I'll get you an IMDb link. I think I can find something.
Glenn, how did you solve a Windows Vista PC issue? By throwing it out the window?
Now they classify it as a comedy, fantasy, horror. I don't know. Comedy was very, very dark comedy, I would say. Well, I guess it could be darker, but it's pretty damn dark. Darn. Sorry.
When
And
did Cabin Fever come out? Because that's probably one of the best horror movies.
now this was now Teeth was right on the cusp there. It's
Nice.
2007. 2007. So 2007 was, just on the cusp of 10 years ago.
I thought another good horror movie was House in the Woods. That was a really well done horror movie. And I can't believe
Yeah.
they didn't put any of the Michaels up there. The
House
Rob
in the
Zombie remakes were really
Those
well
were
done
good.
horror movies.
Those were good too. The House in the Woods, yeah, I really like the House in the Woods. I'll second that. Right, that was the
The
remembering this
comedy
one.
where they based it on a bunch of other horror movies.
Is this the one I'm thinking of? No, this isn't the one I'm thinking of. Oh my God, they had so many. Just like one guy and his family was in this movie, and that's it. What the hell?
So some other links out here. Phoenix
seen that
PC posted to our show links that Linus is unhappy with the sloppy Unix Millennium bug patchers for the Linux kernel, so he's not happy about that. He also posted some Windows 10 stuff. Apparently, a version 1607 has been confirmed for Windows 10 as it begins to finalize their anniversary update. Also, Microsoft is not backing down from their malware-esque X button to install tricks.
They're not taking that out?
Well, that's what I picked up from his comments on that. Maybe they are.
Yeah, I thought we talked about it yesterday. They were.
They may be doing that, but maybe they're just continuing the nagging.
They explaining what they did, what I was describing yesterday. I thought it was yesterday, not the day before.
Phoenix has a new job, so he said he's not going to be able to join the shows until Fridays. Friday's going to be his only time slot. He's not working, so. Have y'all ever done slacklining or seen people do slacklining? It's like the tightrope, but flat rope stuff. Apparently, the world record was just set for that over a huge canyon. That stuff's pretty crazy, I think. Hey, speaking of old Vista-style hardware, do you know that all of our nukes run on 8-inch floppy disk?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, really?
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that story. That's crazy, scary, man. And a lot of our other big, not just that.
They
a lot of
spend like
our
millions producing these things.
And I can't, and do you know the waste, all the taxpayer money that has to go into, you know what those things are charged, because there's no factories that make those things. So basically, you have to commission an entire factory just so you can get a floppy disk and incur all the basic expenses of all that. And so you can imagine this floppy disk is probably like $10,000 a floppy disk. I can't imagine the waste of money that they do in maintaining those machines, and for what purpose? Because they don't want to rewrite it.
I bet they haven't replaced the floppy disks.
Yeah. Well, that's
probably
part of
press
it.
the button and just some smoke comes out.
So you want to launch the missiles, and what happens if that read error on floppy disk? You start hearing that the head move back and forth and shit. I don't know. It's very scary at this 2016. I mean, if those stories were scary, I thought frankly in at the cusp of the century. And you're 15, 16 years later, you know.
Eric posted a nice little meme of remember when floppy disk could save/destroy the world, and now kids just look at it like a 3D printed save button. Glenn, the cause is that you're not running Windows 10, so Microsoft is making it horrible for everyone to update any of their stuff that's not Windows 10.
RTM Tech says a lot of the Treasury Department is from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, I believe that the article mentions that as far as the other government agencies that are, it's not just the military, it's others. Yeah, so thanks for that.
Glenn, you had to turn on or off IPv6 and networking. I want to say that Vista had issues with IPv6. In some situations, you would have to turn it off. A lot of situations.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know if you guys remember.
I even saw it fall over to Windows 7 too.
No, I didn't know if you guys remember this, but there was a setting basic change that they made in I believe it was in the Vista era, and it impacted networking. I wish I could find a reference to it. Now, does anybody know what I'm talking about? Basically, they I don't know, changed the hop count on something, or I don't know the specifics of it, but there's a fix for that. You can go in and change it. It's not a registry hack, but you can run a command line tool to reconfigure the networking. Oh, it's some sort of auto discovery, auto sensing. Yeah, now I remember. It's some sort of like auto detection thing that they built into Vista.
Yeah, the auto magic packets.
Yeah, the auto magic packets. There you go. And if you run that, there's a way you can run it on the command line and reverse that, turn that off, and then you no longer have the problem. But if you've already fixed it, I guess it's okay.
Usually turning IPv6 off fixes it. I recall that issue had a lot to do with internal networking, so browsing your internal network and shares and things, it would screw the heck up out of that, which is exactly what it was designed to fix. So, but I've seen several cases with Vista and 7 where turning IPv6 off fixes a lot of stuff. And yeah, Eric, I'm not looking forward to the day when we start using IPv6 addresses. Those are incredibly long to type in.
You shouldn't have to. They should all be auto assigned at that point, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, but if I want to address something statically, I will have to type in that address to access that system.
There's mitigations for these things. I don't believe it'll be that bad. You won't have to do that any more than you typically. How often now do you have to type in IP addresses? It's not terribly often. Maybe when you set up your router.
I do all the time. I SSH into everything with an IP address.
I use DNS for almost all my devices. My internal network gives out DNS to everything, so I don't have that problem.
DNS is unreliable.
Not if I control the DNS server that I'm using for my internal network.
Still unreliable.
Okay. Okie dokie. Anyway, and thereby using system. I think okay, but like I said, Future Tech Eric, let me try to find you a link, but there is a solution to that. Turn off Vista auto packets, blah blah blah. I don't know. Yeah, it's the RWin auto tuning behavior, or it's RWin auto tuning behavior. Yeah, auto tuning. Let me see if I can find a Microsoft link. Yeah, everyone likes Microsoft link. How to receive or enter and improve data transfer. How to enable it. Oh, here's a hot fix. Okay. Could this be it, Eric? That I think.
Yeah, right, Glenn? Pinging. It's terrible. Terrible address to do.
Yeah. However, in some cases, Microsoft writes, however, in some cases you might experience slower data transfers or loss of connectivity. Your network uses an older router and firewall that does not support this feature. For example, when you use Windows Internet Explorer to access appliances that are hosted in Microsoft Office SharePoint, HTTP traffic may slow down. And they don't go all the way to describing all the problems that it can cause. Brantley and I think, are a little bit familiar, at least, with the problems that it creates, and they're a lot more widespread than I think this article suggests. But like I said, I believe there's a fix, and they even outline an automatic way as well as a manual way to make the changes in the registry. So that's the article you want.
My thing with IPv6 too is going to be the fact that you really don't need it on your internal LANs. Like, there's really not a big plus of having it on your internal LAN. The only reason you really want an IPv6 is for having several devices.
And the Internet of Things. But Glenn's right. Glenn's right. I mean, they use hexadecimal for IPv6 to address it, and so it really doesn't make the addresses as long as you might imagine. Plus, there are ways to shorten addresses. You don't have to write them all the way out all the time, especially if there's repetition and other things that are going on. So I don't believe it's as a logistical nightmare as it is. I just believe that once everything's in place and everybody makes the switch over, including the ISPs, the device and the software and the hardware has been around for so long now. I think it'll hopefully be a small switch over, easy switch over, hopefully.
I mean, like I said, I don't see any reason why you would want to turn your internal network into IPv6. There's no gain towards it on your internal.
You can only have 256 devices, and I can actually foresee a larger house, particularly with more devices than that. And you can create it further, but you're going to have issues ultimately, and the whole Internet of Things. Again, this is the case of we have to build up the infrastructure. That the cable companies, just like the cable companies, have to build up their infrastructure before the services will come out, before the things will happen. So,
Michael, no one is listening to you. Mm-hmm. Eric, Wireshark is really awesome. Anyone that hasn't used it, definitely check it out. Phoenix actually has a custom app config in his repo for Wireshark if you wanted to add that to D7.2. So, we're almost at our hour, so I'm going to leave you with two interesting, funny links here. The first one is don't ever double park in China, because apparently an entire crowd will gather around and cheer on someone destroying your car to get out. Thought that was pretty funny to watch a Jaguar blocked in like a couple cars there, and this Land Rover ended up smashing the crap out of it to get out, and people were like cheering it on and stuff. I thought that was pretty funny, actually.
Oh yeah, that should be legal.
Yeah, definitely should be.
Double park your car, I'm gonna run right all over it.
Yeah. And since we don't have too much to talk about that, let's talk about this. Furniture that flattens into wall art for storage. Pretty interesting concept there.
Your couch falls off the wall and kills you.
Gift that they have. They're aiming more for stools and coffee tables, it looks like. So don't think they're up to couches just yet. This was an interesting device, and I believe it's out of its Kickstarter phase, so they're going to start bringing it to mass market, but you'll be able to diagnose what's in your food with near infrared light. That's actually pretty cool. It hyperactivates the atoms and does some diagnostic off the feedback that it gets from that, and then sends it to your smartphone and tells you the breakdown of what you're looking at there. And it can be applied beyond food as well. You can use it on animals, people's byproducts, and do different testing yourself and things like that on it. I thought that was pretty good. All right, RTM Tech, are you really flying? Like really flying, or are you just flying, heading out? Either way, safe travels. Very safe travels. So another interesting link here too is watching a abandoned ship get salvaged and brought to shore safely. Apparently, it was causing concerns for the French coast, and they didn't want it to run ashore and cause an environmental disaster. So they ended up having to go out there and basically rescue the ship and bring it back, and then they even fixed the ship and returned it to its owners. I'm wondering how much that ended up costing, because I'm sure they ended up charging the owners for that salvage operation. And even still, though, like, how much do those tanker ships cost? Those got to be like millions of dollars, right? How much do you think a tanker would cost? Tank? Your name's a tank.
Do what?
What's your opinion on that? Well, one of the tanker ships that like transports like all those railroad boxcar style things. How much do you think one of those costs?
43 million on the low end, maybe
I was
120
going to say
million.
upwards of 100 million, probably some of them.
Yeah, they're 120 million on the high end. From maybe if you follow Wikipedia's answers.
Those things are insane.
Let's see, where's the cost?
But the amount of goods they can ship on one ship is immense.
But imagine the fuel cost as well, though. That's crazy.
They considering what they
can
can
still
carry,
move more further at one time and cheaper.
Yeah, you have to consider the volume that they're moving
by air.
It's not like you're
the weight.
Yeah,
that's how they ship cars and such too.
Yeah, Tank's got it. There's
that's why railroads are still.
There's various classes of vessels apparently can be very large. For instance, there's oil tankers that are much larger than some of our larger aircraft carriers. For instance, well, I don't know if that's our larger one, but they're comparing them to USS Enterprise. Anyway, over 1,500 feet long, these tankers can be. My God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I thought that was crazy.
Tankers.
Yeah, they can be the size of a small town. Or a large town.
All right, well, we have met our hour time limit for the day. Eric, I did think that tool is really cool. I'm excited to see how much it actually costs when it comes to actual market. Glenn says, thank you, Michael, for that info. He will try applying it to a few machines and seeing if it works, and even possibly just automatically applying that in the future all the time.
Yeah, let me know. It might not be. It's specifically supposed to be for Vista, but yeah.
I know you can have issues on 7, but they did dramatically improve it in 7, so I wouldn't recommend just always turning it off in 7, but keeping it in your back pocket might be a good idea, because I have seen it need to be turned off in 7. Especially seemingly if there's other Vista machines on the same network that could cause issues like that. So.
And did you make mention of the Pi link, by the way, too?
Yep, we had already talked about that yesterday.
Oh, did you?
I was going to add to the ASOP.
Oh, I didn't. I missed that.
I didn't link to it, but it was when I was talking crap about how terrible your Odroid is.
Listen, I keep up with Pi and both of them, and I have both. I don't have a 3, but I have a Pi 2. So I'm not against Pi in any way.
Specifically going for the Pi 3, though. I'm guessing the x64 support is their primary purpose there.
Yeah, the Android doesn't want. That's what they've done. That's why they needed to bring the 64-bit and why they have to keep on certain kernel versions and things like that. It's because the 64-bit Android or 64-bit ARM development for Linux is basically not. No, it's very early on in consideration to all the other architectures and things that it supports. Good support for 32-bit ARM, but very sorely lacking in 64-bit. But this sort of support from a big company like Google and support for a 64-bit ARM device, Pi 3, that's been very well received and highly sold, is probably going to make the difference. And it's not just going to benefit the Pi 3 community, it's going to benefit my Odroid community and everyone else that wants to put out a 64-bit, what do they call them? Single board computers.
Yep. So last link of the day, Proctor was really excited about this. Proctor, how many of them did you buy? Did you check out the price for them? The hologram 3D spinning on vinyl records for the Force Awakens soundtrack. Super cool idea, but I thought I want to say I saw it cost $50.
Yeah, I think it was $50. Yeah.
So you bought 10?
I haven't placed my order yet. I might pick one up. Pretty cool.
So yeah, I thought that was a really interesting design for vinyl records in general. And they are kind of still hanging in there. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. We'll be back tomorrow for our Friday show at 6 p.m. tomorrow. Otherwise, hope you have a great rest of your day here and had a good week as well. And thanks all for listening to us rant and rave.
Sorry for blowing off steam, guys. Take care.
Take us on out, Proctor.
Yeah, is that's supposed to be a heart? But now Glenn, I think Glenn.